Today, we're going to be talking about leveraging personal branding to secure top finance roles. And what is our goal for today? Goal is to provide you with a framework to start building a personal brand of your own to position yourself as a top option in a crowded job market for top financial positions. How are we going to do that? We're going to discuss 3 high-level elements and technical steps that you can take to make actual progress. And I'm sure if you're sitting there, you're probably like, Alec, why do I need to build a personal brand as a financial leader? That's a great question. Building a personal brand can help you get access to exclusive jobs, position you as a thought leader in your space, make recruiting for your own team easier when you need to fill the open seats that you have, lead to business partnerships, land speaking engagements, be found easier by retained search firms, be a go-to resource in your market, and so much more. Now, you're also probably wondering, who am I to teach you this? My name is Alec Borlin. I am a CPA turned executive recruiter. I've placed hundreds of accounting and finance professionals across the United States. I launched my own company, BGC Search, in 2022. That's where Chris and I met, even though I was focusing in Cleveland and he's in Arizona. But while I was running my company, the big piece of my business development funnel was around content creation. I actually ended up generating over $200,000 from inbound leads alone, and that is people reaching out to me requesting my services. And at the end of 2024, I sold that company to the company I work for now, Pinnacle. And I'm still highly active on LinkedIn, where I generate over 1 million impressions annually with my target audience. Those are the people that I want to be having the conversations with and building up myself as a known entity, not just random people on LinkedIn. Today, the goal is to combine my recruitment knowledge with my content creation knowledge so you can leverage it for yourself and ultimately create your own opportunities. And just so you know I'm for real, I believe I took this on Saturday or whenever I was putting this presentation together. That's my content performance over the past 365 days. So what is a personal brand? Personal brand is the amplification of you. It's what you've accomplished, what you've learned, the value you've created, what you're interested in, what's important to you, your unique personality. In a lot of ways, it's your reputation, both online and offline. Now, personal brand has 3 main elements, and those are content, which is really discussing the value that you ultimately had, or that you have and can add. Sorry, it's 5 o'clock here, East Coast. Visuals, which is how you present yourself. Your audience, which is who you're talking to. So the first element is probably the hardest one to get down, but it's really the pillar of everything, and that is content. So what are the main content pillars that you want to talk about? What do you want to be known for? Who do you want to talk to? What do you want them to know and learn from you? Here's some examples of where you could potentially start, understanding that this could be a foreign concept to some of you. So, easiest place to start is your own experiences, because you are the only person uniquely qualified to talk about that. So some examples are how you've grown a company by 20% year over year, how you've helped a company go through a sale, your expertise when it comes to specific industries. So 3 ways cash flow could bankrupt a manufacturer, situations you've faced, challenges you've overcome, questions you find yourself answering frequently, your take on current events, of course, without getting political, industry updates with your own unique analysis on it and how it would affect any given industry that you have that specific expertise in, regulatory updates and how it might affect your industry, personal interest. And I have this asterisk here because when I added this element to my own content creation, that was really the linchpin. That was the unlock. Because when you're just posting value-added content and factual content all the time, it's easy to kind of get lost as another voice out there. But when you start adding your own unique elements about yourself, it's what allows people to really connect on you at a human-to-human basis. Where you eventually want to go is being able to talk about the pain points and problems of your ideal audience. You want to talk about the common frameworks that you use to help your ideal audience, the solutions to the problems that your ideal audience faces. Eventually, you'll hone in on your core areas that you're comfortable talking about. You'll also start to find your voice, which a lot of people talk about, but as somebody who's been doing this for a long time, I can definitely see what everyone was meaning. I've been posting content for about 3 years now consistently. So these areas could be making better business decisions from a financial lens, the difference between a tactical and strategic financial leader, common risks companies in your industry can avoid, and navigating the deal process or building a financial foundation to sell a company. And also AI and the effects it will have on the finance function. Ultimately, it comes down to how do you want to position yourself with your target audience? People love content that simplifies a concept they already know or teaches them a new one altogether. So when you're getting started on your content journey and you're trying to create a name for yourself, think about when you're making that post, how is this going to make a concept that most people already know easier to understand? Or how can I teach this brand new concept to somebody altogether? Pick the areas you want to be known for and have experience in, and ultimately take it and start distributing it on the platform. Now, a common question is, how do I distribute this? So there's several ways to do it on LinkedIn. There are text-based posts, there are images, videos, carousels, and polls. Polls are a great way to get started because it's an easy way to start gauging the interest level of certain areas that you might want to start talking about. You might be thinking, I'm not a writer, Alec. Well, that's fair because I definitely wasn't one either when I got started. So here's a simple framework that you could start using to immediately start posting. So the hook is what is going to ultimately stop the reader from scrolling. And if you're on any form of social media, you understand how easy it is to get lost in a scrolling doom loop. Once you hook them in, you tell them a story to showcase your expertise and make it engaging to read. Then you share your unique insight, the takeaway that you have from the experience that you've gained throughout the years, and then make sure that it is, again, teaching them a concept that they already know in a simpler way or explaining it to them brand new. Then last but not least, we are going to add a CTA or a call to action and then an engagement question. So an example of that is, have you dealt with this problem before? So here's a quick example. In the very top here in red, you can see our hook where I try to get the attention of my ideal audience. I share the reasons why I'm qualified to share this in yellow, and then I share my insight in blue here. And this is actually a bad example because I don't have a call to action or an engagement question here, but it was someone recent and it has almost 45,000 impressions as of the last time I saw this, which when I this screenshot, I think it was Saturday. Don't forget about AI, your personal copywriting assistant. Unfortunately, this is one of those topics that could probably be a presentation in and of itself, but the cliff notes are AI is a great tool to give you a framework of what a post might be able to look like, but it's ultimately up to you to add your own expertise and again, understand what you were trying to position yourself as when you ultimately end up putting this out there. Now, the overall goal of our content is simple: showcase your value proposition. The second element of a personal brand is the visual element, right? Which is mainly just your LinkedIn profile. At least that's what we're going to cover here today to keep it simple. This is the most important thing to keep in mind here. Your LinkedIn page should read like a sales landing page, not a resume. In other words, we're going to keep in mind that we want to make sure that your LinkedIn page is showcasing the value that you can add, right? So here are the LinkedIn profile essentials: profile and cover photo, headline, about section, featured if you have creator mode turned on, which again, for this presentation, I'm not going to complicate it more than I need to. The experience section, skills, and recommendations. So to give you the high level overview of what this kind of looks like, we have a professional headshot, which I understand some people don't want to have that on there. But again, as somebody who has been in executive search for a while now and been in that industry for a while, it really just makes things a lot better for you as a candidate. And this isn't just from a recruiter standpoint. This is working with CEOs as well when they're looking to make that financial leader hire. Cover page, cover photo is going to be this top big piece of real estate here. I am open to a couple different versions of what you want to use here. General picture that outlines that you're in finance is fine, but this is a lot of real estate up here, and you can get very creative, as I have done here myself. I'm in the accounting and finance interim solution space now. So I take the opportunity here to make sure that people see that right when they get to my page and they have different ways to reach out to me. Now, the headline is probably one of the most important sections on the page. It's the first one word, or sorry, it's the section directly underneath your name that kind of outlines the high level value that you're able to add. Now, some headline examples for financial leaders might look something like this: your title, what it is that you do, and you can either go a couple ways here. In this example, we talk about being specialized in an industry. In this example, we talk a little bit more about that you're focused on the operational side of things. And then probably the most apparent is the private equity CFO. Again, showcasing that you work with a specific type of ownership. So private equity versus family owned versus publicly traded. The next section is the about section. And the important thing here is that we are thinking about this as a landing page. Again, this isn't a place to regurgitate your resume. There are pieces of your resume that you want to take here and highlight, but the first sentence in your about section is the only one that people are going to see when they get to your page. So ultimately, we want to have it be something that is interesting enough for them to click open the about section and read the rest of this, because there's a lot of room to write here. So my first sentence here is meant for CEOs or CFOs to see and hopefully click into and read more about my profile, which I then go into more about myself, my background, my specialty, who we work with, how we operate. I actually had to take two pictures here because there's so much space here. More into my story, who we help. I add a testimonial here at the very bottom, and then last but not least, my contact information. And this is all, this is all in the attempts so that when people are viewing your profile, it's giving them more reasons to reach out, more opportunities to engage with you. Because the more conversations that we can have with our target audience, which we're going to get into in the next pillar, the more conversations that we can have, just the better of chances you're going to have for organically finding those opportunities that are out there that other people aren't talking about. So the featured section here, again, this is only applicable if you have creator mode turned on. It's just a great way to highlight pieces of content that you have on your profile that you want people to see. You can pick and choose from recommendations, post types, resources that you share on here. But I'm not going to go into showing you how to get that turned on. I'm happy to walk anybody through if they're curious in turning that mode on. Now, a very important section is the experience section. So this is where I see a lot of people, again, kind of just having their resume regurgitated here and missing a lot of the important information that provides the color into the type of value that you can ultimately add and that people are looking for when they're looking to add a financial leader to their team. So what I like to do here is position it in a way that is, again, telling the story, what my core functions are, the value that I'm able to add, and problems that I'm able to solve. My recommendation to financial leaders is to focus on painting a picture of the companies that you've been with, what you've been able to help them accomplish. And we do that. And specifically, what I look at from a recruitment lens is understanding the size of the company, the type of the company, are they products, are they services, the industry that they're in, the software that they use or that you helped implement, if any, the ownership type, are they family owned, private equity, publicly traded, the business goals that they have, that they originally brought you in to help solve, the team that you oversaw, how you were able to align the financial goals of the organization with the overall company goals. And then lastly, what the heck happened? Did you guys reach those goals? Because everybody wants to know, when you were brought in to do something, did you hit it? And if so, by how much? Now, the skills section, I hope, is fairly self-explanatory. Select the ones that apply to you best. Last but not least is the recommendation section. And I have the little money symbols here because this is a chance to validate everything that you have listed on your profile above. So the way to look at this is look at the people that you reported to, look at the people that reported to you, at the organizations that you've been at that help you achieve those goals, and then get with them to be able to have a conversation and say that you're looking for a recommendation that would help support the work that you guys were able to accomplish. It's just it's really a reference check that is written before anybody talks to your references verbally. So you can see why having content and copy down early can help you fill out your profile. Because when you're going through and you're filling out your quote unquote landing page, having that copy related to the value that you're able to add to a potential employer is ultimately what's going to help you fill it out really quickly. Again, I'm going to say it's not a digital resume, but it is a massive competitive advantage considering how many companies review your LinkedIn even before your resume. Now, the last element here is building your audience to distribute your content and position yourself as a must-know financial leader. If you're familiar with Chet Holmes and the Ultimate Sales Machine, this concept should sound familiar. But ultimately, we're going to be building your stadium pitch for potential employers rather than customers. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the stadium pitch or Chet Holmes and the Ultimate Sales Machine, the concept is basically imagine walking into a stadium that is filled with every single one of your ideal client profiles, and you have the opportunity to shout one message to all of them. In this instance, we're going to build your stadium pitch with your ideal client employers. So this is literally just connecting with the right people on LinkedIn. And if you don't know how to do this, bear with me. I'm going to show you real quick how to do it very simply without having to pay for anything additionally. So you just go to LinkedIn, you click into the search bar and you would click enter. You go to all filters, you select your location, you would type in the title of the individuals you're looking to connect with, select your specific industry, and then ultimately connect. Now, I want to make one additional point here. I think there's two ways you can build out these searches. You can either build it by specific titles in your area or in a given industry as well, or you can expand it to be more nationwide, but drill down industry specifically. So for example, CEOs in the machinery manufacturing industry across the United States versus just CEOs in the greater Phoenix area. So who should you connect with? You probably know this, but if you don't, I'm going to recycle it here. So the end decision maker is ultimately CEOs, presidents, company leaders. But it's also important to network with the other centers of influence, right? So bankers, both investment and commercial, CPAs, lawyers, private equity professionals, insurance brokers, executive recruiters who focus on accounting and finance, and financial advisors. Because ultimately, the more conversations you can have with the people who are responsible for leading these businesses, the better of a chance you will have at finding an opportunity where less people in your market are going to know about, right? The jobs that aren't posted out there that everybody wants to get in front of. Now, you can send roughly 20 invites a day without looking like a robot. I'd start slower if you're new to connecting. As these connection requests are accepted, you're building your audience to start engaging with, nurturing, and sharing value with, right? This is you building the stadium pitch for those potential employers. Now, there's automation that can help you send out those requests while you're doing your day-to-day responsibilities. I would just start with the manual for now until you're convinced enough that you want to connect with more people consistently. Now, here's the final stretch. We're going to bring it all together, so bear with me. Commenting is the easiest way to get started as you look to start building your brand, your personal brand. Identify the key people you're connected with who post a lot and comment on their posts, because what that's going to do, it's going to give you visibility to their audience in addition to make them really happy. As somebody who posts every day on LinkedIn, when people engage with my content, it means a lot to me because there really is a lot that goes into this. But when you're commenting, make sure it's not just the generic love this, rather try to share some value. So if you ran into a similar problem, share the experience of how you were able to overcome it, or provide different recommendations or people that they might be able to connect with. Commenting builds reach, but that's only going to take you so far. So commit to posting one time a week, then two, then three. Then it's really up to you if you want to post consistently every day. Eventually, this will become habit and it will constantly serve you over time, regardless of which direction you want to take your career or what you want to do with this audience that you're consistently interacting with now. The final step is to reach out to the people who are interacting with your content and start genuine conversations. These are the people who are liking your content, who are commenting on it, and it's as easy as sending them a message after they do so and asking them what they found valuable or what resonated with them. It sounds crazy simple, but I promise you, it really does open the door to actually just start having the conversation. And one thing as well, don't just send the resume and say, keep me in mind. Look at their background and try to establish a jump off point for the conversation, how you can add value for them, how they might be able to add value for you. These conversations are ultimately where the gold is found. So in summary, build a personal brand to get access to exclusive jobs, position yourself as a thought leader in your space, make recruiting for your own team easier, lead to business partnerships that you wouldn't have otherwise developed, land speaking engagements, be found easier by retained search firms, be the go-to resource in your market, funnel leads for your fractional CFO firm, and whatever else you can imagine. Focus on the content you want to discuss, your LinkedIn profile presence, and connecting with the right people every day and engaging to add value. So let's connect. And I think a lot of you have already done so, which I appreciate. Again, I'll drop my LinkedIn URL in the comments here in a second. But with that, Chris, I think we're good to open it up to questions.
Awesome. Thanks for the presentation. That was awesome. I think a lot of great information. You and I have talked a lot about content creation on LinkedIn, and I think between the two of us and then a lot of other folks that we pay attention to, there's obviously there's no one size fits all, but I think there's a ton of ways to draw attention to things you post. I think there's an interesting correlation between the value of what you're presenting, and then obviously impressions and reactions and comments and so forth. And I think it's not a one answer for everything as to what is best between impressions and reactions and comments and what drives viral and what the algorithm looks like.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways to there are a lot of ways to get traction, to get eyeballs, to get people responding, and then some of it's just going to be right place, right time, depending on when you post, all of those different things. And I know that you and I have talked about sort of what we think is best case, worst case, mid case on timing and so forth. And I'm still wildly up in arms about whether I think evening works, morning works. I mean, there's certainly studies, and people spend a lot of time navigating the algorithm to figure out what is best. But I think between you and I, we know a lot of people that they either follow a script or they don't follow a script, and they're both, it can be wildly successful in what they're trying to do. So again, it's never going to be a one size fits all. But with that, let's open it up to questions. And I think anything's up for grabs for Alec. I know he can talk to in or through anything that you might have where it comes to job role finding, branding, all the things that he mentioned. So I think if we can get hands raised, and we'll just go one at a time. So whoever wants to jump in first, please do.
Alec, on headshots, tie or no tie?
That's your call. I think either way, it's not going to hurt you or help you ultimately. I think, yeah, we got a couple hands up there.
Yeah. Ganesh, you on?
Yeah,
you on
sure.
mute?
Yeah.
There you go.
Hello, Alec. I have a couple of questions when it comes to LinkedIn. there are a lot of automated tools are available, right? Oh, we can do outreach for you. We can write the script. We can do DMs. Do you recommend
Yep,
that? I also know LinkedIn can put you on a LinkedIn jail, right? If they find
correct.
automation.
Yeah, correct. That's a great question, Ganesh. So the only thing I recommend the automation for is literally just the connection phase. So I look at it as that the connection phase is just allowing me to build my audience while I'm doing my day to day. And then therefore they're seeing my content as I post each day. And the tool that I use is called Dripify, Dripify, and they have those built-in safety mechanisms so that you don't trigger any of that.
Okay.
I think, and they're great because I think them and LinkedIn have like this informal handshake because LinkedIn
Okay.
definitely does not like automation stuff.
Right. That's what I heard because once you're in a LinkedIn jail, I don't know, for a few days you will be out of pocket, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and I have one more question. Do you recommend reposting some of your old posts? Because if it's doing well, if you, do you have any views on reposting?
So what I would do if something's doing well, repost it, but don't actually like repost it, copy and paste it, post it again. That's a
Okay,
great you raise a great point here. So what I see a lot of people do when they first get started is they will repost somebody's content that they really like with their own thoughts, which isn't a bad thing. If that's what gets you to start, do it. But when you post something as yourself, LinkedIn rewards you more because they see it as original content. So if you go and repost one of your old posts, it's just not going to get that same attention that an original post or a first time post would get.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Angie was next.
Hi, Alec. Thanks for doing this. This is great.
Yeah.
Question for you. If you're a person who is a sector switcher and you have been in multiple sectors or industries, how does that appear to you? What settings can we put in terms of industry that would work for you on the executive recruiter side to see it? Because I've had different people have different perceptions of this as we're looking at our profile and settings.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I understand the question right, Angie. So you want to, how do you make sure that you are found better by executive recruiters?
Well, so I've been in multiple sectors, let's say tech, CPG, retail, and nonprofit. And
Yep.
there used to be a setting on LinkedIn that I had to assign myself to an industry. Like it's a toggle switch.
Oh, yeah, the very top one that you're in.
Yeah, is you said the most likely one. So it wouldn't be in finance or accounting because I don't think that's an option. It'd be my most likely one. That would be the one to select.
Whichever industry you have the most experience with, I would say whichever industry you have the most experience with, or the one that, again, you have experience with that you would like to go into next.
Okay.
So I know what you're talking about now. That's that industry that is like at the very top under your name.
Yeah, and sometimes it shows up and sometimes it doesn't. But it seems like, other people don't always see it as well. So I wanted to see if
Yeah.
it's something that definitely drives your search when you're, let's say you're looking for somebody in technology. Is that going to
Yeah.
pull over when you're looking at it?
Kind of, but if it's on your profile, the filters that we're going through when we're doing our searches, you should still surface. So I would also potentially, in your about section at the very bottom, this goes for everyone. If you want to list the various industries that you have experience with, you can kind of list that as well.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mitch is next.
Oh, hey, Alec. Thanks for the presentation. I appreciate it. I was just, you said something about there's an automated way of reaching out to a lot of people. You mentioned that instead of how do you do that on LinkedIn?
So I use a tool called Dripify. And the way that it works is you would build a search. You would probably end up exporting it to a CSV file. And basically you upload it into this software and you would then set the message that you want to go out to a group of similar individuals. Now, I don't send auto messages because I
Right.
like to personalize all of my stuff. But if you were doing something that you wanted to be consistent, that you didn't want to be hyper personalized, that's where you can kind of utilize it.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Bill, you're next.
Alec, if you wish to network into private equity and family offices, what industry groups do you recommend?
Well, I don't know if I have an answer for that one specifically from an industry standpoint. My background, where I've spent a lot of focus, I'm in Cleveland, so we have a ton of manufacturing companies here. We also surprisingly have a lot of different private equity groups headquartered here. But if I were to network, if you want to get a PE-backed role, I would say whatever the most of your experience has been into this point, I would identify that, position yourself accordingly, and then start having those conversations with the PE groups that focus in that industry in particular. Does that answer your question?
Not really.
Okay. So you're asking what's the best industry right now to get into?
No, I'm asking what networking groups within that focus on private equity or family offices do you recommend to this group of CFOs if they're interested in getting positions in those areas?
Yep, I misunderstood your question, but I got it now. And I don't know any of those networking groups that help get into that specific area.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again,
Ganesh and then Ganesh and then David.
okay, a quick question, Alec. Do you use any Chrome extensions for LinkedIn? Any Chrome extensions?
I do not.
Okay.
No, are there some in particular that you're looking at?
Yeah, like which will help review your comments. It will not post, but it will give you feedback.
Okay. So for LinkedIn specific, I have heard Taplio is good. I've never personally used it. That's Taplio. But no, I'm not using any extensions
Also,
like
Clio,
that.
I heard Kleo. It can tell you the highest perform post. You can filter by your influencers, by industry, or you can track and you can comment on that. Clio, Kleo. Have you heard about
Okay.
Clio? Yeah.
I might have to check that out myself.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
David
Yeah, thanks.
Schoenberg.
Again, Alec, this is excellent. I wanted to ask you, is it worth it to pay the money to get Sales Navigator on LinkedIn?
That's a great question, David. It is, I think it's a powerful tool. Are you looking, my question is, are you running a fractional firm? Are you looking for your next full-time job? What is the intent of using it?
So I am indeed with a fractional firm. So I'm a fractional CFO. And yeah, I am trying to identify specific companies that are involved, let's say, distribution into Latin America, small, medium businesses located in the state of Florida.
Yeah. In that case, David, I would definitely say it's worth it because I think it's only like $80 a month.
Right.
And the the insights that you get, the search capabilities that you have, it will make your life a whole lot easier.
Yeah, yeah. And how does it confirm compared to PitchBook? I know PitchBook is extremely expensive, but does it do a similar job or totally different?
I've never used PitchBook. I got the demo and I saw that price point and I shied away from it personally. I think what it does really well is it just lets you see the market. It lets you do your own research and filter by company industry and size and decision makers. So from a PitchBook standpoint, that, as I understand it, that gives you more information in terms of when somebody was funded and is really more in the details than a Sales Navigator would be. Sales Navigator, I don't believe, provides you with any of the funding statuses, but you can use Crunchbase, for example, I think they have a free offer where they'll give you, they might not be as up to date as a PitchBook, but you can get more of that specific information there.
Yeah. No, actually, I'm not so interested in when they got funded. I'm more interested in identifying those companies and if hopefully the CEO or the CFO or somebody, a warm body that I can reach out to, right?
Yeah, I think you just need Sales Navigator in that case.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Of course.
What do you think about the sort of the delta side by side between Navigator and Premium?
Navigator and a full-blown recruiter account?
Yeah.
I think if you're just looking at it for business development purposes, Navigator is probably where you need to go. Recruiter gives you a lot of the different talent insights. So for recruiting firms, it's invaluable. You also get more in-mail credits. And again, from a recruiting standpoint, the project features are probably a little bit better, but I use Sales Navigator for a little bit, and I think you can really build out some really good projects where you can kind of structure the different industries and the C-suite within those companies in your given area, whatever that might be, whether it's local or across the country.
Yeah, I think my thought on the recruiter, at least the basis of the question, is really thinking about how we, as anyone that's looking for a role, especially in a senior role, I just wonder if there's benefit to backwards engineering the process. And I think if you had recruiter, I just wonder if that allows for some of that backwards engineering as opposed to just finding names and frontward facing sort of the communication layer. Does that make sense?
Define backwards engineer for me. Does that mean identify when people have left or consider leaving?
No, well, it could be that, but if I'm the recruiter, I've got a one-way lens on it, right? I've got a client, I've got to go find, I want to go find sharp, smart, intuitive, strong candidates, right? And so if I think about backwards engineering, I take a candidate and I say, okay, well, what does this look like from the recruiter lens? And if I've got the recruiter, package, I just wonder if that allows for some of that, or if that can just be done without that.
I think what you're describing should probably be done with the Navigator still. If I'm thinking of this from so if you want to reverse recruit yourself potentially, right? So if I'm looking for a new role and
Right.
I have a specific market that I want to look at, what I would do, and this is kind of part two to what I discussed earlier. So that was the presentation there was all about building the personal brand. The second component of that is being able to go out there and actively network and reverse recruit yourself. So what I would do is I would build a search that listed all of the relevant companies in my area that I could potentially be a good fit for. And I'm qualifying that as companies that are similar size that I've worked at, similar industries that I've been at, places that I know that I could reach out and say that I can add significant value because I've been in a similar situation before. I'm going to build a list of those companies. I'm going to build a list of those CEOs, depending on the size of the organization, maybe some people in talent acquisition, but I really want to be focused on the CEOs and presidents. And then I'm going to reach out with my story of the value that I've added, the journey that I've been through, and what I've been able to accomplish with potentially some of their competitors.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense to me. I think, again, I don't ever subscribe to a one size fits all, obviously, but I think that being thoughtful about all of the different avenues, I think, is really important, and it's important to the effect that you and I talked about, this idea that I had a while back around how much data is helping or hurting us when it comes to connecting recruiters to candidates and candidates to recruiters, or companies to candidates, and so forth. And I think that while we have access to a lot of different things, I think we're also being hurt by it at the same time, because there's too much of too much. And again, I think that's why maybe in the past we had I think a much more definable channel of how to find new roles, of how to connect with people and so forth. And I think now it has become a little bit muddy, but your 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's hard the data is great, but like you said, it can kind of murk things up because you start reading into something and then you have to question yourself, is this actually the story here?
Yeah. Any other questions anyone has from the group?
I have one general question. Can I ask, Alec? You
Mhm.
you were an exit recruiter before, right? Or like a search. So as a
Correct.
recruiter lens, do you have any tips for people who are in the job search? How they should be found on page one? Because when you're running a search, if you get 20 pages, you're not going to skim through all the pages, right? So if
Right.
you find a good pool in the very first page or so, then you're going to go ahead and make those calls. So people
Okay.
on job search, what we should do, I know this, I know LinkedIn, you need to optimize. Everybody talks about profile optimization, but what
Yeah.
is it we need to do to basically to be rank higher in the search?
Well, I think you need to find great questions, by the way, Ganesh. A plus on the questions here. They've all been awesome. I think going back to the presentation, you need to identify first and foremost, who do you want to find you and what do you want to be found for? Because you can't just rank number one in everything. The
Yeah.
people who are on the front page are the one who are the most related to the search that the recruiter is running. So reverse engineer where why do I want people to find me? What search do I want to pop up number one as? And then that's what you optimize your profile for. So understand the various filters that we're able to look on are location, industry, title, experience, education. But the big ones, it's really the location, title, right? That's where you can cast the broadest net. And then having those keywords on your profile allow us when we're running different Boolean strings to find you that way, to pick up those keywords on your profile.
So you look at the skills as well, skills.
Skills are fine. That'll get picked up. That's all picked up in the same filter.
Okay.
Yep. But if
Yeah,
there's like
basically,
anything, if you have a specific industry that you're in and there are specific keywords that you know people would be looking for, or that hiring managers within that company are looking for, list that on there because those will probably be part of the overall search process.
okay. And what's your opinion on a green banner, right? Open to work. Is it individual choice, or as a recruiter, do you have any views?
Yeah, there are people who are always posting on this, like, don't do it, do it. I don't care. Do what it doesn't to me. I think if you want to be found, have it, right? The argument is that it doesn't put you in as good of a position. I disagree. If somebody's good and they're looking for work, they're good and they're looking for work, right? It doesn't diminish the value that you have because you have your green banner up. That's the big counter argument that I think I hear. Um, so I think it's really just your call how you want to be perceived.
Thank you.
Um, Thanks, Ganesh. Great questions. There was a question in the chat. Can you please walk us through how recruiters use LinkedIn to source candidate leads? What are the criteria, location, skills, company type, et cetera?
Yeah. So Tatiana, that primarily comes down to what the search is. And I think I kind of just covered it there a little bit. So depending on where it's at, what industry it's in, what we're specifically looking for. So, I've had CFO searches that are just kind of stock CFO roles, we'll call them, in the manufacturing area here in Cleveland. But then I've had those where, hey, this is a company that might be getting ready to sell. We need somebody who has led that process before.